Happy birthday to you. Hello mommies and daddies, today is my birthday, it's March 30, and that's why I wanted to talk about what to do if you have a child who is very sensitive to sounds. I've worked with so many kids with hypersensitive hearing. Some of them have a phobia to specific sounds, like the happy birthday song, and especially if the sounds are loud and sudden, like the hand dryer and the blender. Some of them have an increased awareness of sound frequencies that don't bother other people that much, like the sound of a washing machine whirring or the aircon buzzing. They may even feel annoyed and angry by everyday background noises or sounds that other people make, like chewing or even breathing. That's why we're going to talk about how to help kids with auditory hypersensitivity. It's a Thursday and I really miss doing this, so it's time for another OTTTT, Occupational Therapy Tools and Tips Thursdays! Imagine your child in the classroom listening intently to their teacher. They're trying to pay attention to the lesson and all their brain is focused on the teacher's voice. However, if your child has auditory hypersensitivity, their brain's attention is all over the place because they won't just perceive the teacher's voice, they would also notice the sounds that we would normally just disregard or not even notice in the first place. While the teacher is talking, their brain could be paying attention to the sound of the air conditioner or the electric fan. They could feel annoyed by their classmates who's playing with their pencil or talking or chewing food. And even just the rustling of paper would mean that their focus from the lesson would be gone. Our sensory systems have a neurological threshold that needs to be met for our brain to register the sensory input as important. For children with auditory hypersensitivity, this threshold is a lot lower. What that means is that these sounds that allow us to produce a response would be too loud and too much for them to handle. This would cause negative reactions in them that would cause them to be scared, anxious, and be protective of themselves instead of trying to interpret where the sound is coming from. It really gets in the way of them listening to the teacher and paying attention to what really matters. It even affects other areas of functioning, like going to the movies, eating out at a restaurant, or going to an amusement park, even talking to their friends in the playground. Auditory hypersensitivity is common in about 3.2 to 17.1% of children in preschool. They would usually outgrow this as they mature. However, it becomes problematic in children with neurodevelopmental disorders, such as autism or sensory processing disorder, where it persists. They would have a hard time focusing on a task and get really distracted even with very soft sounds. They could cover their ears as a means of protecting themselves from the pain and discomfort that these everyday sounds cause. And they could be feeling anxious when they're placed in a situation that's similar to where they previously heard these noises. Ultimately, this leads to their refusal to participate in very important life situations, like birthday parties. Here are practical tips that you can easily implement in managing your child with auditory hypersensitivity. Number 1. Identify and avoid triggers. The first step in managing auditory hypersensitivity is to identify what sounds trigger the child's sensitivity. Once you have identified these sounds, the initial thing that you could do is to help them avoid or minimize exposure to these sounds. This way, you would know what sounds you and your occupational therapist could work on and when your child would need the most help adjusting. I have a kid who never finishes his tasks. It doesn't matter if it's a 3-piece jigsaw puzzle or a 15-piece pegboard. He always refuses the last step and covers his ears. After observing him for some time, I realized that what he was avoiding was the praise he expects to get at the end. He was scared of hearing, "Yay! Hooray! Good job!" which usually other kids would like to hear. So, we had to change the way that we give rewards and also the way that we end activities. Number 2, provide a quiet retreat. Children with auditory hypersensitivity can benefit from a quiet space where they can retreat or escape when they become overwhelmed by noise. This could be a room in the house or a designated area in the classroom. Make sure the space is comfortable, calming, and equipped with noise-canceling headphones or other tools that they can use to help them cope with their sensitivity. For example, you can ask the teacher to have your child seated on the side of the class where they would be near the exit or near the quiet space so it's easy for them to access when they're overwhelmed. It can also be going to the frozen section at the grocery store, or they could be seated at the back row when you're going to church. Just let them know you can go together when they find a place too loud. Number 3, allow a way to escape. Children with auditory hypersensitivity already feel overwhelmed and anxious from all these sounds. Another way that heightens these emotions is their lack of control in the situation. Sometimes covering their ears seems like the only way out. That's why teaching them more appropriate ways of handling the situation would give them a sense of control. Asking the parents for permission to leave, being assertive in telling their classmate that they need to lower their voice volume, or telling others that they need time on their headphones. These allow the child to communicate their need for some quiet and make these loud situations more bearable. I've worked with kids who don't have the verbal abilities yet to communicate this need. So we had to teach them how to put their finger in front of their mouth for shh. We could use a card that says quiet please, or if they're already aware of the play buttons on YouTube, we would print out play and stop buttons and they could press them if they like the song that we're playing or not. If you're learning so far, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the bell button for notification. Also shout out to Mommy Malu Santiago for always being so supportive of the growth community. Number 4, practice desensitization. There are negative effects to wearing headphones all the time, and so we can use them as a cushion or a temporary solution while we're teaching our child to be desensitized to sounds that trigger their sensitivity. It's important that you consult with your child's occupational therapist so that you can create a comprehensive plan to let you know where to start and how to conduct it in a safe and effective manner. At Growth, we start by creating a safe environment through play, and then we begin with classical music. It's calming, predictable, and familiar. We teach the child on ways on how they can cope and relax, such as doing deep breathing or hugging their favorite stuffed toy. Once we build this foundation and they already have some skill on knowing how to relax, we then start with low-level exposure to the sound. From there, we would gradually increase the intensity, the volume, and even the duration until they're able to cope with more. This allows them to gradually adapt until they become more comfortable and less reactive to the sound. Remember, each child is unique, so what works with one child may not work with another. Work closely with your occupational therapist so you would have an individualized plan on how to address your child's specific needs. And hopefully, your child will be able to cope to sounds and gain confidence as they participate in school, the community, or your next birthday party. And that's it for another OTTTT, Occupational Therapy Tools and Tips Thursdays. Don't forget to follow our Facebook and Instagram pages. Bye-bye! See you next Thursday!